I would love to know where everyone's joining us from today. We are going to see a lot of new faces and names. I'm seeing Beck and Ashley, Bianca, DJ, Grace, Brady, Kaylin. Amazing. So I'm seeing actually a lot of new names. So I would love to know where you're joining us from and if this is your first workshop. If so, or either way, really, I would love to know if there's something specific you're hoping to learn today, if there was, one pain point or one goal that really brought you to today's event. Would love to know that. Okay, so I'm seeing in the chat we have people from all over, originally from Sydney, we've got Seattle, we've got New York, Connecticut in the house, amazing. New Jersey, Chicago, beautiful. Little Rock in New York, first time joining. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Florida. Okay, we've got people from all over the states and in this case from all over the globe joining us. So really excited to have you here. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Avery Bradford. I'm head of programming and events for Female Founder Collective and the 10th house. If this is your first time with us, you may not know what the difference between Female Founder Collective is and the 10th house. The 10th house is Female Founder Collective's private membership community. It's where we host networking events, both in person and online. We do pitch demos. We have a full community and membership with specific access to different events. If you are a new member, welcome. This means this is your first ever new member event. You are going to have access to things that people who aren't in the 10th house don't. We have our orientation tomorrow, welcoming our beauty and tech cohort. We also have an office hours event with the CEO and founder of Glowbar, Rachel, who is going to talk all about how she's become one of the fastest growing private companies in the US. So that'll be a really exciting conversation. Speaking of exciting conversations, I'm really looking forward to today's event. We've had it on the books for several weeks now. I've had the honor of actually going through the conversation with today's host, so I know it's going to be amazing. But before we do that, just a little bit about today's event. So FFC, Female Founder Collective, and DigitBridge are thrilled to team up to empower digital commerce founders with resources they need to expand their sales and operations more efficiently. So that is what today is all about. It's about expanding your sales and operations. So ask your questions, stay engaged. Anna's also going to be asking you questions to get to know who's in the audience today. That way she can tailor this conversation towards you. But through the Digital Transformation for CPG Brands educational series, which you are joining today, retailers within FFC's community will gain access to exclusive strategies and tools to optimize their omnichannel sales and operations. So with that being said, I am really excited to introduce today's host, Anna Trumbo. Anna, I'm going to kick it over to you. And like I said, today is interactive. So pop your questions into the chat, answer your questions in the chat. Let's stay engaged. So welcome, Anna.
Hello, everybody. I do have the chat open, but when I get into it, I might not pay attention. So I may take a pause to look at the chat, or Avery, if you see any really, really excellent pertinent questions, just call them out. But I'm really excited to be here, and welcome to the Path to Value, building an omni-channel sales strategy. I'm happy to be with you so close to Halloween. I know I can't see anyone on the call, but is anyone else on the call rocking some spooky outfits? I'm just here for some witchy vibes. Nothing in the chat. Oh, I've got all gray. Okay. All right. Anyone else spooky? No, not so much. Unfortunately, not today. You know how we had Brat Girl Summer? This is going to be Witch Girl Winter. You heard it here first. All right, so let's jump in. I'd like to briefly touch on the agenda for today. We're going to talk about why a productive, efficient omnichannel sales strategy is critical for success in today's selling market. We're going to talk about how to effectively partner with major retailers like Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, etc., and how to master multi-channel sales with a small team, even if that team is just you. So before we start, here's a little bit about me. I am the head of customer success at DigitBridge and work with many clients at various stages of business growth to figure out the right strategies for them. But outside of all the work stuff, this slide pretty much sums it all up. Family, music, Star Wars, and baseball. I am sorry if there are any Yankees fans present. I mean, I'm not really that sorry, but you catch my drift. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Why an omnichannel sales strategy is critical for success in today's selling market. First of all, we need to understand what omnichannel sales is. Does anyone here sell products on more than one platform or channel? And if so, throw some examples in the chat. Because according to the internet, omnichannel sales is a business strategy that uses multiple channels to provide a consistent customer experience across all touch points, making it easier for customers to buy products when and how they want. So this can include physical stores, online marketplaces, mobile apps, email campaigns, and social media. So that's according to the internet. According to us, the answer is pretty much the same. I don't always trust Google AI, but they usually get it right. Oh, I see Shopify and Etsy. Yeah, Etsy is a big one. All right, so now that we know what it is, why is it important? To understand that, we need to address that the fact that the face of commerce has changed drastically over the past several years. So in the olden days, you were looking at large purchase orders, less competition, lower risk, and a more productive inventory. Wholesalers sold in higher quantities at lower prices, and typically were the suppliers for the retailers. Retailers, in turn, would sell directly to the consumer in smaller quantities. Now, digital commerce has changed the game, which naturally meant big changes for the business owner. There is significant increased risk to the SMB, smaller order quantities, a constant battle for margins, less lead time and smaller commitments, higher demands for service and fulfillment, and much more frequent B2B returns. I know there are a lot of business owners on this call, probably a majority of you. What are some of the challenges you've faced as a result of the changing landscape of digital commerce? And if you would put some answers in the chat, also seeing a lot of
Yeah, I was going
Amazon
to
from the
say, while we're
previous.
waiting for people to let us know their challenges, I'd love to share some of the sales channels. We've got Shopify and Etsy several times, drop shipping, Amazon, D2C. We've got wholesale, Nordstrom, e-commerce, social media, corporate, consignment, emails, etc. Wow. Amazon. And then I'm also seeing challenges start to come through. One of the a big challenge I'm seeing is moving down on Google search results. Um, and then we've got another sharing their social or their channels, Shopify and Amazon. I'm seeing a lot of Shopify and Amazon.
Moving down on Google search results is definitely tough because it's not just Google that you have to optimize for with like your SEO. There are a bunch of different platforms that have different requirements. So that's definitely a big challenge, is making sure that you are up on the Google results. Rising digital marketing costs, yes. Harder to be seen in general, paid ads and organic social, definitely. All right, we'll be talking through a lot of this stuff. I just wanted to get an idea of what everyone on the call has been dealing with. So all of these changes emphasize the need for an omnichannel sales and operation strategy. If you have all of your eggs in one basket, you know the risk is going to be higher than diversification. So many, many baskets. Does anyone here utilize a similar strategy already? It does look like from the answers from before that you have like Shopify and Amazon. So there are people using strategies like this right now. But yeah, keep them coming in the chat because all of this will naturally lead to boosted revenue and reduced cost. So here's an example of an omnichannel sales strategy that we see most commonly with our clients. They have their own website, at least one social media shop. Is TikTok on here? Yes, TikTok is on here. Some national dropship retailers, one or more marketplaces, and then typically a wholesale marketplace. Fair is usually the one that we see the most frequently. Now, a lot of you were kind enough to submit some questions beforehand, and I wanted to make sure and address some of those. So one in particular worked really well with this topic from Katie. And that is, what channels should we prioritize in 2025? And we kind of went to the brain trust with this because we have a lot of people with tons and tons of expertise on our leadership teams. So assuming you have a company-owned website like Shopify or Squarespace, that's a clear start. If you don't have that, that should be your absolute first step. And of course, you want to be sure that it is mobile device friendly. A rising percentage of people are doing their shopping on mobile, different mobile platforms, and that percentage is going up and up every year. So if you don't have mobile friendly shopping options for your products, you're just going to be left behind. From there, it is good to explore some of the different B2B and B2C digital marketplaces that are a strong fit for your brand. Understanding the brand alignment and strategy will be really important decisions for you to make at your company level. And like I said before, we have a lot of experts with years of industry experience in this exact field who we lean on to help our customers figure out the best fit. But it's tough. There's no one size fits all for answers because everyone has such a different, all companies are very, very different. But yeah, definitely start with your own website and make sure that what you have is mobile friendly. So initially you might have been on just 1 or 2 channels, but now you're on 3, 5, 10, 20, and so on. I do want to take a beat here and call out that quantity doesn't necessarily equal quality. While being on several channels has benefits, it's important to know what those channels should be. So for example, if you sell apparel at a higher price point, you likely don't want to be going after Kohl's or maybe even Amazon. If you sell skincare products at a lower price point, for example, Bloomingdale's probably isn't the right fit for you. You can get even more granular with it if you have multiple brands or lines under your umbrella and want to sell certain items on higher end channels and other items on more budget friendly channels. Blindly listing on every channel available can come back to bite you in a pretty serious way. A good example that we have seen, not with our clients, but people that have come to us after this has happened to become clients. If you are in consideration to sell on Nordstrom's, they don't want to see that your items are selling in Penny's or Walmart. If they see that you're selling on a different site like that, they will likely not approve you to be sold on their website. So the strategy is a little more nuanced than just more is better. And another thing I would love for you all to throw in the chat, have any of you experienced selling on a channel that wasn't the right fit for you or your product or your company in general? And what was that experience like? So if any of you have had experiences like that where there just wasn't good alignment between you and the channel, I would definitely throw that in the chat because that's one of those learnings that we want to make sure that our clients are able to learn from us rather than having to learn the hard way. So for a lot of businesses, the hardest segment to break into is major retailers. And we've helped a lot of clients navigate this. By a show of thumbs up, how many of you partner with any major retailers? I know I've seen some in the chat. I've seen Nordstrom a few times. Oh, Fair hasn't brought in many orders, but it works for some brands. Yeah, Fair can be kind of hit or miss for some people. It either works really well or it just is a little bit slow. Yep, seeing some thumbs up come through. Excellent. So partnering with major retailers comes with some major advantages. They have established trust with their clientele. They have enormous baked in customer bases. They will lend you increased credibility and exposure. And I want to emphasize this, they will promote your products for you. And that is unbelievably powerful. They give you access to advanced logistics and marketing networks. And there is always the possibility of your brand being showcased in store. A really powerful example of this would be small and emerging brands featured on Sephora's online platform. They showcase many more brands online than they do in store, which lowers the barrier to entry and empowers the brands to absolutely blow up. All of that being said, you need to make sure your operations are fully buttoned up because you only get one chance at a first impression. When an opportunity like this comes your way, you have to be ready to knock it out of the park. Otherwise, you'll be out in the blink of an eye. There's another baseball reference for you all during World Series time. So with that in mind, you need to be aware that preparing your business internally is key. This includes ensuring your inventory management, supply chain, and customer service can handle the expansion. And that's an expansion that is a continuous process. You're going to have to be confident that you have the tech capabilities to do business with these partners, craft a go-to-market strategy, have a line sheet, regularly monitor sales performance with intelligent business insights. And that means you'll need to be able to run various complex reports on a regular cadence, have the proper tools to gather and synthesize customer feedback, and expand, sorry, where I lost myself in the slide, have the resources to be agile and adaptive at the drop of the hat. So those are all of the things that you must do. It's a quite a long laundry list of to-dos. And expanding your sales channels is a journey. There's a lot that's involved, as you can see from this list. But with the right approach and tools, it can lead to significant growth and success for your brand. So one of the things I mentioned on the previous slide was a line sheet. Is your line sheet ready to wear? For those of you who aren't familiar with the term, a line sheet is a document that includes product images, descriptions, color and size options, and wholesale prices. This is used by suppliers and manufacturers when presenting their products to buyers or retailers. And they used to be printed out on fancy glossy paper and mailed, or sometimes even hand delivered to retailers. With the exception of very few retailers that prefer a more traditional approach, that has been replaced with digital line sheets. There are some great resources available to create and manage line sheets. Several of them, though, can be extremely cost prohibitive, like $20,000 a year cost prohibitive, and difficult to manage if you don't have prior experience doing so. Luckily, there are systems like DigitBridge, of course, to assist you in handling all this, including the digital line sheet creation without getting too overwhelmed. But in any case, whatever you decide to do, you will need to have an effective technical solution if you hope to manage even one major retail relationship, much less several of them. I'm seeing something in the chat. I'm planning on launching my brand in February next year. Was planning to start D2C, but wasn't sure about Amazon versus TikTok or small specialty retailers to start. It's an eyesore brand. There's many places it could work. Definitely, that's something that you absolutely want to drill down on. At the end, I'm going to put my contact information up on the screen. So if any of these topics are interesting and you want to continue the conversation later, I highly encourage you to reach out directly. I care. Okay, good. I was going to say eyesore. That doesn't sound great. I care. Okay, perfect. I see. Yeah, I would love to see, Beck, I would love to see your line at some point so we can maybe talk offline and see what some of the better fits might be for your not eyesore brand, but eye care brand. All right. So before we move on from retailers, I had a question from Michelle that was submitted ahead of time. What's the first step in getting your product in Free People and Anthropology? Because those are two very, very popular retailers right now. So first, what I would do is shop the stores, study the brand strategies of each brand that they carry, and develop products which are both differentiated and accredited to what they're currently running, and also fit within their style, category, and price points. Digital marketing aimed at brand building is super important to create a need, not only in the consumer's mind, but also in the company buyers' minds. So they carry so many brands, it's really easy to get lost in the shuffle. And without creating prior demand, your first sell-in may not perform well enough in the giant sea of products that they carry on the sales floor, and it could be your last order. So it's really important to position yourself well before you approach that kind of a partnership. And again, that's something that we can always discuss. So I did want to highlight a client that I've worked with for over a year now who has successfully implemented an omnichannel strategy. Excuse me. Julianne Bartolotta is a client of mine who has experienced success with these strategies. She has an amazing line that she designs out of New York with really beautiful items made in Italy. Prior to adopting this strategy, she had a web store and would occasionally do pop-ups in boutiques and like different events, which is absolutely fine for an emerging brand that's less than a year old, but there was a lot of room for her to grow. So once we worked with her and she committed to a tailored growth strategy, she added 3 additional channels within just 2 months of adopting that strategy. Macy's, Verishop, which are both direct-to-consumer channels, and then Fair, which, as we called out before, is a B2B wholesale marketplace. And all of this, oh, also Hearst, that was a new one that she added recently. All of this happened before her brand's first birthday, which is a massive achievement, and we are incredibly proud to be in partnership with her. She's truly a walking testament to the power of these partnerships. And in her own words, you can see the difference this approach has made in her operations and business growth by allowing her the same e-commerce capabilities as other big brands, which positions her to be picked up by online retailers. So do make sure you check out her line at juliannebartolotta.com. There's some really beautiful stuff there. All right, so I want to share a high-level roadmap of what the process of these partnerships typically looks like. So first, you need to understand your target audience and which platforms they frequent. And this involves significant market research and customer analysis. Next, you will assess product fit for each potential channel and by identifying channel audiences and channel selling price points. That was something we talked about before with Free People and Anthropology. You want to make sure you're operating in an appropriate price point for these different retailers. Lastly, it is time to build robust relationships with these platforms by negotiating terms beneficial to both parties and aligning your logistics in preparation for higher volume order fulfillment. That's a big one. They might love you, they might love your stuff, but you need to make sure that you can fulfill a high volume of orders in case demand picks up right away. All of this may be true, this roadmap, but the reality is there is no one-size-fits-all solution for every brand in every industry. When I say platforms, I mean retailers. Yeah, I mean the retailers, any platform that you need to be approved on to sell on. So predominantly retailers, yes, in this case. But yeah, there's no one-size-fits-all answer for every brand in every industry. And while it would be fun for me to go a little into detail on each and every point, do have a time limit, and that could take many, many, many hours. So suffice it to say, while everyone's roadmap may be unique, these 6 steps are going to remain constant. They're all required steps to take. And so that brings us to the third and I think most practical portion of our talk today, which is how to master multi-channel sales with a small team. So first of all, you got to get yourself a PIM or a PIM equivalent system. I cannot recommend this enough. We believe in the power of technology, specifically a PIM, which stands for Product Information Management. For those of you who aren't familiar with the term, it's a digital library or database for all of the product details a company sells. It will let businesses create, organize, update, and share this product information, ensuring that everything from online stores to printed catalogs has accurate and consistent product details. Think of it as a central cooperative hub where all product data lives and gets updated. It's a great way to sell on multiple channels with limited resources. I mean, in my opinion, it's the only way to sell on multiple channels with limited resources. So how can a PIM system help supercharge a small team? Truly, the only effective way to manage omnichannel sales strategies, especially with a small team, is using a PIM. So it's your single source of truth for content management, listings, price changes and promotions, inventory and selling control, as well as reporting and analysis. Wait, I'm seeing some questions. I have a friend who just got their first retailer offer from Crypto. They're excited about the opportunity, but they're asking for 70% of sales revenue and a year of online retailer exclusivity. What would you do if given an offer like this? Wow, that is unlike any sort of offer that I have seen. What I would probably do is confer with some of the leadership on our staff. Our CEO has 30 years in the industry, and we have people in our leadership team with like a combined 70 plus years of experience. So I'd actually ask them to see in their long history and experience, have they ever seen anything quite like that? Because that looks pretty wild. What are some common PIMs? We will definitely get into that. And then tools to do market research. We can get into that as well. That was from Safina. Yeah, 70%. That is crazy. Yeah, hard pass. Whoever said hard pass, I agree. That is absolutely outrageous. There are 3 distinct teams that would work in a PIM. You've got, if you have a larger company, that is, you've got your production managers, content creators, and channel specialists. So the production managers oversee creation of the product itself. The content creators are the ones that will use a PIM for content management. And then you have channel specialists that handle listing, like the actual listing of the product on the sales channels and so on and so forth. For smaller companies, however, there's really only one team that would use the PIM system, and that is you. Typically, a huge concern with multiple teams working out of the same platform is redundant workflows, repetitive tasks, not following the same processes, inconsistency, and human errors. Really easy to create silos where one team doesn't know what the other team is doing, not to mention overwhelming people with complicated systems to learn. So a good PIM solution makes it so that certain teams use certain features without any overlap. This way, they don't need to learn more than they need to. Teams aren't getting in each other's way, and each team can see the work that the other teams have been doing in their specific areas. And this also applies for if it's just you. You want to make sure that you're not doing redundant and repetitive work because your time is precious. So regardless of team size, a solid PIM system allows you to manage content creation and maintenance at the level, excuse me, at the level of a much larger organization while keeping your own team lean. Let's see, as a previous buyer for a Fortune 500 retailer, 70% margin is completely unheard of. Absolutely agree. I have a feeling the leadership on our team will say pretty much exactly the same thing. And now we get into the actual content creation. So AI tools in many modern PIM platforms can help turn a bland description into compelling, memorable content that you can adjust for tone and length as needed. So different platforms might call for different descriptions. One more straightforward, one a quote unquote lifestyle description, and so forth. You can outsource copywriting or save a ton of money and just let your PIM generate it with you. I've used some of these functions as well. It's funny, every time you use funny, they end up starting it with yo, check out this blah, blah, blah. So AI thinks that yo is especially funny. Not important at all, but just something that tickled my funny bone. So how are you going to sell your products if no one knows what they look like? Ideally, you would house all of your product media in a PIM system or equivalent. There, you should be able to adjust your media based on each channel's requirements, store the media, and ensure that the pictures being sent to each channel will be accepted per their guidelines. So you can see in the example, the model's head is not visible. Nordstrom often will require you to send in photos in this fashion. However, for your own site, for your Shopify, your Squarespace, your Magento, whatever, you probably do want the model's head visible. So you're going to want multiple versions of the same image, and you want to make sure the right image is going to the right place. Or they have different resolution requirements, things of that sort. So now that you have all of your product content created, stored, and organized, you need to actually list them on the various channels. This is true regardless of what it is that you sell, but there are multiple levels to it. So you have to have your core standard attributes that are shared across all channels. And these are fields that are universally used. But then there are also channel specific attributes that are customized for the nuances of different channels. Shopify might require certain fields. Amazon has a ton of their own requirements. So does Nordstrom, and so on and so on. So with all of these listings, now that you have everything listed, it's highly advisable to find a way to manage it all in one place with integrations that are built to keep redundant work to a minimum. The more channels you add, the more complicated things can get, often exponentially so. So with that in mind, any tools that you can find that will streamline your processes will be invaluable. And not to beat a dead horse, but like PIM is going to be super helpful for things like that if you have multiple channels you're listing on. So that way, once you're listed, you can manage your inventory, run promotions, and then optimize your entire catalog from a single platform. There are a lot of options out there, and I'd be happy to discuss some with anyone who is interested in learning more. Obviously, I think DigitBridge is a superior pick, as we are specifically designed for small to medium-sized businesses instead of other companies that really more target enterprise level businesses. But it is important to do your own research and compare features and find whatever solution is best for you, even if that solution happens to not be DigitBridge. And then lastly, and I would argue quite importantly, you'll want to be able to report on your sales. You will need reporting features that allow you to view all channel performance for all items, preferably all in one place, so you can kind of look side by side. Someone earlier was saying that they had been on Faire and they weren't really selling much on Faire. So it's a good place to go, all right, well, in Amazon, I'm doing extremely well. In Faire, I'm not. Maybe that means I need to change the products that I list on Faire, or maybe that just means that Faire as a channel isn't working for me. And you can make different tweaks and adjust your strategy as needed. Oh, how do you track sales once the product is with the retailer? Well, the sales would come through your order management system, and then you can report on it from that. We can kind of get into that at the end. That's another thing that DigitBridge will allow you to do is track sales. So you can say, I sell this black dress. Here are my sales on Nordstrom. Here are my sales on Shopify, and compare and contrast. So to recap, in today's marketplace, a multi-channel sales strategy is critical for sustained growth and success. There's really no way around it. You've got to be on at least more than one channel. Partnering with major retailers is especially effective, not just for sales expansion and brand building, but they will help promote your product. I mean, that's absolutely key. Once you're in, they will promote your product for you. Their audiences are massive. It's just, an absolute game changer. And then third, being a small company and or having a small team does not preclude you from having nice things. A good operation system can help you unlock opportunities to fuel your growth. That's something that we believe in very keenly, just from our core values standpoint, is that there should not be such a high barrier to entry. You should not have to have a large team. You should not need to be a large company to grow and scale and be a serious player in the space. It should be available for smaller to medium-sized companies as well. So a lot of you did send in some questions ahead of time, and we've gone through and looked at some of them. And I wanted to just take a moment to call those out. Let's see. So we won't be able to get to all of them because there were a lot that came through, but we selected a few that we thought would benefit the larger audience. And just so you know, as I've mentioned, we offer free business consultations at DigitBridge if you want advice from experienced professionals on how to navigate the industry. So Dayun, I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong, but Dayun asked, as a small startup with limited resources, how broad should our omni-channel strategy be? How do we find the right balance between diversifying across multiple channels and focusing our resources on just a few to grow faster? Oops, sorry, let me go back there. So the lazy answer is that it truly depends on your resources. Sales channel testing is a lot more manageable than people realize. So that can be done to determine the best product or channel fit in a way that doesn't break the bank. Having a single point strategy to optimize your sales regardless of how narrow or broad your strategy is of course helpful. Um, so I know I've said this a bunch of times, it'll probably come up again. There is no one size fits all answer. It really does depend on the company. And that's something that we try to work with our clients to find out. Regina asked, in your experience, what are the most common misconceptions businesses have about implementing an omnichannel sales strategy and how they can effectively address these challenges to create a seamless customer experience? So, a lot of time and effort can be wasted without a complete knowledge of your target end consumer and their omnichannel journey paths. So, knowing who is going to buy your products and where do they shop. This will provide the knowledge base to develop a proper omni-channel B2B or B2C or a combination of both strategy. We found a lot of people that were doing traditional wholesale are now venturing into D2C, and companies that were exclusively D2C are now dipping their toes in the B2B waters. So it helps to be agile and be able to operate in both worlds if possible. These type of strategies, they have to be built on strong product market fit, not only for your brand, but for your retail store partners. So making sure that you truly understand your target customer and what is resonating with their tastes and preferences. That one is huge. Another big misconception is that an omnichannel sales strategy is out of reach for small companies. And we believe that to be a misconception because there are solutions out there that small, even one person companies can utilize effectively. And let's see, for this question, we put some of the answers on the screen in case they are helpful. And the question from Susan is, what are the questions brands need to ask themselves and potential retailers when interviewing retail partners? What is the best way a brand should approach a retail partner? And we got a bunch of different answers from different people on our team. Does my brand have strong product market fit to both retailers and its clients? What are the pricing policies of the retailer you are approaching? Regular pricing, promotional pricing, hybrid pricing, and then how do you envision your brand's pricing position? How will the retailer in question showcase your brand? With distinction, or will you just be another brand on the floor? Will your brand have visual clarity on the sales floor? Will in-store marketing aids be accepted by the retailer? These are really important. This is kind of goes back to the free people anthropology question, is you want to make sure that you're not lost in the shuffle. You have to be in some way, shape, or form differentiated from all of the other many brands that they carry. What is the retailer's reputation in the marketplace with respect to payables, promotions, gross margin demands, et cetera? Does the retailer strive to build strong partnerships with 3PL brands, or do they rotate through them often? So a lot of different questions you can ask. Of course, if we connect offline, we can come up with some other good questions that you might want to ask potential retail partners. Like, are you going to demand 70%? Because that is, like everyone in the chat has said, is kind of crazy. So someone had asked for my LinkedIn. I've put it here. It is linkedin.com/in/Trumbo, which is my last name. And then there's also my email address and my phone. I wanted to leave a good amount of time at the end for questions, maybe questions that weren't dropped in or weren't submitted ahead of time. I also have a couple of my business consultants on this call. And if there's something I feel that they might be better answering, I'm going to defer for them. Oh, I see Avery said, have any more questions, place them in the chat.
Yes, and I wanted to refer back to a couple that we got earlier as well. So I know Allison said, how do you track sales once the product is with the retailer? And Anna, you said maybe you wanted to go into this a little bit deeper at the end.
Yeah, so a lot of different PIM or other business operating systems will have reporting options like this. So when your sales are coming through and you fulfill them on your end, you can track all of those in your system. Like you're going to need some sort of operating system if you want to do meaningful sales reporting. And, you know, not to sound too tooting our own horn, but that is another thing that DigitBridge offers. We have an ERP that is a business operating system where you can track your sales, channel to channel, by item. You can get as granular as you want by, you know, year over year. How is this season performing compared to last season? And things of that sort. We usually try to find out what are the most important reports for you to run specifically. And then we can tailor some custom filters and make those bookmarked for you so that you can access them regularly.
Super helpful and great question, Allison. We got another question from Shaban, and that is, I heard Amazon was becoming popular with selling premium beauty and skincare products. Is that true? Have you been seeing this trend on your end?
I've been seeing it a lot with honestly more apparel brands. I mentioned before brands like tailors like Nordstrom might not want to partner with you if they see you on certain other platforms or marketplaces. I think that might be changing. There are a lot of like higher end designers, sometimes even couture brands that now are appearing on Amazon. There's one, oh my gosh, it completely escapes me. Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. It's, oh, Rodarte. Now has a line on Amazon and they are like much more high end. So I'm seeing that more and more. I personally haven't seen it as much with skincare, but I would not be surprised if that were the case. That's something I'd be happy to research and discuss a little bit more with, you said Siobhan,
Yep.
directly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a really good point that even though you may want to go to Amazon, if you want to go somewhere else, then it, may not be in your benefit to go that way. We got a question, and that is, do you have any tips on how or when to approach high-end retailers? Curious from your end, Anna, just knowing the clients that you work with, if there is a sweet spot that like, okay, once you're at this point, it seems like more seamless to work with a retailer, or you find that maybe they have a little bit more success once they're in a certain spot?
Yeah, I think I have my thought, and then I want to give my business consultants on the line a chance to hop in and speak up as well. For me, the biggest thing, you might have all the technology in place, you might have the channel integrations, all of that, but if you can't handle the order volume, if whether or not you do manufacturing in-house or you manufacture domestically or in China or in Europe or wherever, if you can't handle a large order volume, the moment you can't fulfill an order on time or at scale, they could drop you right away. So making sure that you very confidently can handle a high order volume, that is huge. And then Justin, I didn't know if you had any thoughts you wanted to share.
Yeah, and Justin, let me give you access to unmute yourself. There you go. If there's anything you want to add.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. Hi, everybody. My name is Justin. I work with Anna here at DigitBridge. I think Anna said it perfectly. With all of these stores, you have to be DTC fulfillment ready. So if any orders come in, they want to make sure that you can fulfill it on the back end, because if Sarah from Minneapolis buys one of your products from Nordstrom, she does not know your brand directly. She's buying it from Nordstrom, and Nordstrom relies on you to fulfill that order for them. And if you do not fulfill that order directly properly, Sarah from Minneapolis is obsessed with Nordstrom because she made the order through Nordstrom.com. So can be a one strike you're out kind of deal if Nordstrom doesn't think you're holding up your end of the bargain. But in terms of when you're able to build these relationships with these retailers, a lot of it so much depends on your line sheet. And in this day and age, with all the digital tools available to people, you can create a really nice looking line sheet, even when your product's not quite as ready as you should be or could be. But again, then it just falls on your responsibility to make sure you're able to meet any orders that are coming through those channels.
That's Super
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you, Justin. And while we have you, we have another question about lead generation from Melissa, and that is, do you have recommendations for lead generation in general or AI specific?
I can answer that one. Recommendations is a strong term. We have a few different resources that we can suggest, but nothing that we would stand behind particularly. But we do have some customers who have used different tools and they share that with us. So within our ecosystem, we're aware of different tools. But again, nothing we would certainly recommend as something that might be particularly useful for your business. But we're happy to share those resources that you can investigate further.
Awesome. Yeah, and
I
if you
did also see,
go
oh,
ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
I saw one about free people. Again, do retailers like free people care if they carry a brand already that could be competing with your product, which could sway them away from your product? It's tough at the level of free people. I would say probably not a ton because they carry so many brands. Um, if it was a large retailer that was a little more niche, possibly, but there's just such a large number of brands carried at Free People and Anthropology that I don't think that would be a major deterrent. But I think creating some demand outside of a major retailer, like on your own website, would definitely give you a leg up.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
a really great conversation with Divya Mathur, who's Chief Merchandising Officer and Fashion Director at Revolve. She did an office hours event for our 10th house members a couple of weeks back, and she mentioned it's if you're going to, pitch yourself to a retailer that has something similar, make sure that you position yourself as someone who's not going to take away sales from that person, but instead add sales to the organization overall. So it's more so about positioning um, than anything. So that's a really good question. Okay, let me go back and see if there were any other questions that I missed. Anna, are you seeing any? And I believe we got
Yeah, I see one
comments.
from Stephanie. Do Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, et cetera, expect immediate, i.e. same day shipping or next day shipping? Can you specify a window of 5 to 7 days? You can usually set your own terms for as far as shipping. And you can also usually, based on location, typically you will get more favorable. It will be more favorable for your brand if you can accommodate same day or next day shipping. But generally they do allow you to set your own windows. It depends on the retailer. But they might not list you as favorably, like you might not be as high up in the search results if you only have ground shipping available. So you want to try and see if you can get faster shipping available for you. GS1, oh, Julie, provide some guidance on setting up GS1 certified UPCs. Yes, we collectively, DigitBridge can provide some guidance around that. It's not a service that we offer, but as far as like our consultative services, or like the free business consultation that I mentioned, it's absolutely something we can discuss with you. I personally am not the expert on that, but we do have people on our team that can talk to you. So if you reach out to me, I can make sure to connect you to the right person. Because if you want to be with a major retailer, sometimes they use EDI, you need to be EDI compliant, you have to have UPCs, all of these different things. So that's absolutely something we can help you out with.
And I'm seeing a question here from Jess and Jay, and that is, does DigitBridge help with syncing reviews from our website onto the other retailer sites on the PDP?
That I don't believe so. Justin, do you have any additional color you can add to that? I don't
No,
think
that
that's
is not
something that we
something we
do.
do. Somebody asked this question earlier on a previous call we had, and we started to do some research on it. So I might be able to share some resources on that as well if you send Anna an email, but it's not something we do directly.
Great question, though.
I do see some from Carrie Dowiak. I'm very sorry if I'm butchering your name. What is the best omnichannel strategy for a very niche brand? Being very niche, I would love to connect offline and discuss that because there's like I've said, there's no one size fits all. And I would like to learn more about your company before I, give an answer on that. And maybe have you also talk with some people on our team that do have many, many years of industry experience, because going after a lot of different channels probably won't be the right thing. You want to make sure to address product market fit with the different channels that you're going after. But I have a very narrow face, and a lot of standard glasses fall off of my face. So I would love to learn more. Personally, I would love to learn more about your brand, as a potential consumer of eyewear that actually will stay on my face.
And I'm seeing a question from Leah. And Leah, this may be more of a marketing than a sales question, but I'll go ahead and ask it just the same. Leah says, I'm rebranding and have a few local LA boutiques who want to sell my products. Is it a good idea to sell in their stores until I can get new packaging to them? So sell the products as is or wait. And Anna, that may be more on the marketing side than the sales side. So
It
not sure.
is you're right. It is a little more on the marketing side. So I want to preface this by saying I am not a marketing expert. If there are marketing experts on this call who disagree with me, please feel free to correct me. My feeling on it, and I feel the same way about a lot of this, is that there's never going to be a perfect time. You can always go through and nitpick and find reasons to tell yourself you're not ready. Like, oh, this tiny little thing isn't ready, or I'm going to fix this. This isn't ready. This isn't ready. There are always reasons you can convince yourself that you're not ready. There are some major boxes that do need to be ticked, but beyond that, oftentimes it's just best to, once you have those boxes ticked, just go for it. And if you don't already have a ton of brand recognition, I would say go for it, as long as you're ready to fulfill those orders and then do the rebrand afterwards. Again, if there are marketing experts on this call that disagree with that, please chime in. But I think it's easy to talk yourself out of moving forward with things. But if they are ready to sell your products now, they might not be ready to sell your products by the time your rebranded packaging is out. So that would be that's my opinion, my inexpert opinion.
I love
Yeah, I
that.
can add a little on that if I may, because I think that answer is perfect. And one thing I would just recommend is just open communication with the boutique. Anna talked about what business used to look like and what it looks like now. And it's hard to get purchase orders from boutiques, right? And when you do get purchase orders from boutiques, they're very small. They used to be much larger than they used to be. They used to be able to sell dozens, if not hundreds of items to different stores. And now they might just take a few units, depending on what kind of agreement you have with them. But I think just talking with the boutique, you never want to lose the opportunity to sell with them. And if you're just open with them and say, well, you're about to do a rebrand, you think it's going to enhance your brand. Are they willing to wait? Do they think that's smart for them? Or would they rather just strike while the iron's hot and start now? And if they say they'd rather strike while the iron's hot and start now, then I think you should definitely start now. They understand their customer a little bit better than you do because it's their boutique store and they know what their clientele is like. So an open conversation with a boutique, I think, would probably answer it for you.
That's good advice. Okay, speaking of good advice, I want to end on one final question, and that is, what is one of the most common mistakes you see small business owners make when it comes to their sales and their sales strategy? And what's one Actually, let's focus on the mistake, because usually when we focus on the mistake, the solution is pretty clear.
Yeah.
So Anna, Justin, would love to know the number one thing you typically see.
I'll start, and then I'd love for Justin to add on as well. I know I just said you can always talk yourself out of getting started, but you should go for it. On the other hand, until you can, one of the things that we see a lot is people who start too soon, before they have the infrastructure to support that kind of a sales strategy. Like, you can have it all conceived of in your mind, you can have it all written out, you can have it all planned, but unless you have the technology to support that, and the infrastructure and processes in place to support that, the SOPs, all of these different things, you're you're going to very quickly get overwhelmed. And we do have people that come to us as potential clients that are in that position that are like, help, I just got accepted by XYZ different channels and I cannot keep track of my inventory. I'm overselling everywhere. And we're happy to step in and do what we can to help and put those infrastructures in place. But it is always easier to do that before you launch that kind of strategy than try to go back and retroactively fix it. So that's one of the biggest mistakes. I know there are several. Justin, I don't know if you have any other.
Yeah, I can do just one very practical logistical one because it costs people sales, and everybody needs more sales, not less sales. And we have people have come to us, and let's say they have, we'll use the eyewear company who was in the chat. Maybe they have 30 pairs of a certain set of glasses and they don't want to oversell on a channel. So they put 15 on Shopify so nobody oversells, and they'll put 10 on Etsy or whatever other channel they're on because they don't want to oversell. And what that does is it costs you sales. If people want to buy all 30 on Shopify, you've just cost yourself your opportunity for sales because that's how people manage their inventory. So having a solution that they can have their inventory mapped to all the different channels and things are updated in real time. Whereas if it oversells on Shopify, then it doesn't oversell on Etsy. And a lot of people have to allocate their inventory in that way because that's the only way they know how. And then it's unfortunate because it costs them sales. So I always find that to be a big mistake. It's easy to do that in the early stages when you're not sure how to map your inventory to all your different channels.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate both of you so much, Justin and Anna, today. Was so incredible. I saw people mention in the chat that they were grateful for today's conversation. And thank you all for answering their specific questions. Speaking of, you will be getting an email, I think in about 3 minutes, that has Anna's email address. So if you forgot to write it down or, maybe you misspelled it, don't worry. You'll get an email from us in about 3 minutes with that information, as well as information where you can learn more about DigitBridge and sign up for time with amazing folks like Justin and Anna. So appreciate you all. Again, thank you for being here today. If you have any follow-up questions specifically for me, feel free to email me or respond to the email that we're going to be sending out here in the next couple of minutes. But I will be seeing you all soon. Members of the 10th house, I will see you on Thursday for our conversation with Rachel of Glowbar. And again, thank you, Anna. Thank you, Justin, so much.
Yeah, of course.
Thank
Happy
you.
to be here.
All right, we will see you all in the next installment of this series. Bye, everyone.